At CBF, we know that for you to change your body, you need to change your mind. Exercise and eating healthy is only part of the plan. We care about our members as we care about our family, because our members become our family. It is not about competition, but support. It is not about being the strongest or the fastest, but about you defeating your negative self. It is about working together and making the task challenging and have fun. By the end, what matters is not how hard the session was, but that you take control of your mind so you can take control of your body. My name is Sandro Torres, and I'm happy you are part of our family. Welcome to Custom Body Fitness. Jackie Parker is a specialist on colon health. She's going to be talking about how you can keep a healthy colon, what causes a leaky gut, and what you can do to keep your colon healthy and how you can avoid leaky gut.
So it's really important. The colon is anywhere from 5 to 6 feet long. And so things that are, we definitely eat a more processed diet. Fiber is I feel like people can supplement fiber almost every day, and it really helps absorb toxins out of and it scrubs the small intestine and the large intestine. And so our diets aren't the way that they used to be. So it's really important. People are not going to the bathroom as often as they should be. And there's a couple rules of thumb that I've read about the transient time. One is, when you eat this morning's breakfast, you should eliminate after today's lunch. Today's lunch should eliminate after tonight's dinner. I've also heard the 24-hour rule. Maybe it's breakfast after breakfast. But that's probably the maximum. And when people do come see me, I can see things that they've eaten from 2 or 3 days still in their system. So if you think about just food, which also it starts with chewing. You have enzymes in your mouth, and we tend to eat really fast. And everybody needs to kind of slow down and chew the food. Enzymes help you really digest in your mouth first, which helps take the burden off the rest of your system. And it goes into your stomach, and hopefully you have enough hydrochloric acid and the right balance of stomach acids to break down the food. And then it goes into the small intestine and then into the large intestine. If you were to take from your mouth to your anus and stretch it out, it's almost 35 miles long. And that's a lot of transient, that's a lot from here to here. And then for women, we have all our female organs stuffed in there as well. So it's really important to eat well, chew your food, slow down, and focus on having a bowel movement at least every day. And generally, like I said, it's anywhere from it's the size of a quarter in diameter, totally tubular, and soft enough that if you were to stir it around, it would all break apart. You have food that's rotting and fermenting and creating gas. And as that gas gets created, and then you get something, leaky gut syndrome, where the colon becomes very porous, like a sponge, and things that really aren't meant to go out of the colon wall. Vitamin B and K are made in the colon, and the body utilizes it. And if your colon wall is completely clogged, then you're not utilizing any food. You're not utilizing what your body needs. And then there's a mucus lining. You're supposed to make a new mucus lining every 4 days, which the mucus lining protects your body and your colon. But if it's not sloughing off, then it's just building and building, and then you're getting a wall that won't allow. It's just food that's rotting, and you're not getting your toxic colon. There's no good bacteria. It's not a happy, harmonious place, and you feel it. You know, when people suffer from gas sends people to the ER, thinking that they have other pains and it's gas pain. And a lot of people, when they say it's their stomach, it's not their stomach, it's the colon, it's the intestines. And if you want to feel good, it's important to have what you eat and what goes through and what comes out. It's all part of the chain. You don't want to put your body in starvation mode. I've had people come in and do, oh my God, I'm doing master cleanser for 30 days. And you will put your body in a starvation mode and it'll start to store fat. Like there's people who've done crazy juice fasts, and there's definitely a smart way to do. Some people have just done water cleanses for extended periods, which is dangerous. So there's a right way to do a cleanse. It's nice to give your body a break from always having to digest. And it's good to give your body just a little bit of a rest from the same things that you eat. And when you do that, you realize you don't need as much food and you don't need as much spices and salad dressing. You need very little, and your taste buds, it's like hitting the reset button. And you feel great. And so, but I do think that there's not, everybody should do the same cleanse or do the same, there's definitely tools out there, laxatives are a huge billion-dollar industry. There are things that I do recommend to help people to get the colon moving, but it's all stuff that you don't want to become dependent on. And personally, I think colon cleansing, a series of 3, depending on what a person has, every 6 months. It's like getting your teeth cleaned. And some people need more because for my machine, we do warm and cool water, which contracts and relaxes the colon. So like you come to your gym and people work out and they have to do their muscles. The colon hydrotherapy is also a workout for your colon, and it makes it stronger to where you are going and you are independent and free of laxatives. And some of the cleanses I feel like don't focus enough on detoxifying the colon. So when you do a cleanse, and some people are like, oh, I haven't had a bowel movement, but it's because I haven't been eating much. But there is still, your body is detoxing and your colon needs to be open so it has a place to dump into. So I recommend a colon therapy session in the beginning, in the middle, and the end of somebody's cleanse because it supports the whole, like if you're detoxing, where's it going to go if you're not eliminating? And it's pretty wild. People are like, oh, but I just had a huge bowel movement and I don't think there's anything left. And then they come in for a session and we're seeing things that are coming out like that they ate 3 days ago. So, it's all part of the process. And I'm sure you can do it without. Lots of people don't have colon hydrotherapy, but enemas used to be in the medical journals. They were in the hospital. As soon as you came in, you had an enema. In the old days, you had an enema before childbirth, and you had an enema before you left the hospital. Now they don't want to do that. The doctors and nurses are more giving stool softeners and laxatives, and we've become definitely, oh, we're just going to take a pill for that. I have a headache, I'm going to take a pill. In the old days, you had to do an enema. And it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And when people come see me and have colon therapy, for the most part, when the whole session's over with, generally I like to do 3, they feel so much better. You feel like you've lost 10 pounds. And often we are carrying around 4 to 5 pounds of fecal matter that we don't need to be carrying around. All the years that I have been doing colon therapy, I see pills go by. I see Fibercon. Fibercon does not break down. I see pills go by. Very rarely, actually, have I a few times, a piece of steak, you know, people are like, oh my God, if you eat meat, it doesn't digest. It's pretty rare, and that person was really, really backed up, and so the meats and the proteins break down. It's, you know, some vegetable fibers are indigestible, and that is for fiber purposes. But I used to be like, when Doritos were made out of that oil that had started with the
Oh, L.Ac.
Olesta.
Oh, geez.
The tube would be coated completely orange, and they were like, oh, if you see this little white cotton ball with little black legs coming off of it, it's parasites. And over the years, I was like, did you have a banana? Do you have a banana? And it's bananas. Because, you know, like when you make banana bread, there's like little fibers in there. And so, and most microscopic things, like most parasites and things like that are microscopic. I do feel like I've seen two tapeworms come through.
Oh, sure.
And I will see tons of mucus. So leaky gut, pretty much everything causes leaky gut. A lot of anti-inflammatory drugs, a lot of drugs these days that people are on, which people are on a lot. Because I think that in the old days, the doctors used to do the grand rounds, and it was the old guys teaching the new guys coming into the hospitals, and now it's drug companies and it's the drug reps that are teaching the new doctors about this drug, and then that's kind of what they do. So anyway, a lot more people are on a lot of stuff that causes a lot of gut problems and definitely constipation, I'm sure. But leaky gut is basically where the colon becomes like a sponge. It is so porous that things are just leaking out of your colon and into the rest of your body. So you're, like I said, you're leaking out toxins, and you have way too much permeability.
Alex Svac is a chiropractor here in the Roaring Fork area. He's going to be talking about some movement there causes lower back pain and how you can fix those movements, those biomechanical movements, so you avoid lower back pain.
There's three kind of main reasons why we kind of look at good quality movement and proper movement and all that. The first one being performance and injury rehabilitation or preventative measurements, whatever it may be. If you look at like the best athletes in the world, and especially the ones that don't get hurt often, it's not necessarily the biggest, fastest, strongest people on a team or whatever it may be, but it's that they have the best overall quality of movement and efficiency and coordination relative to their activity and sport. So movement kind of directly translates to performance and activity and that kind of stuff. The second one is overall quality of daily living. So, for instance, if you don't have good movement pattern with your squat, which is something that you do, Sandro and I were just talking about, something you do all the time, all day, every day, even if you're not thinking about it, you're squatting down, sit on a chair, or toilet, or whatever it may be. If you constantly, repetitively in nature, kind of working on top of a dysfunctional movement pattern, whatever it may be, that can lead to stress on the joints, injury, discs, all that kind of stuff. So it's good for the quality of daily activity. And the third thing is overall brain health. So back to what she was talking about, stress. We have these maps in our brain and something called the homunculus, and what that does is it prioritizes certain aspects of our body. So for instance, the hands are the most kind of sensitive area in the body. So in the brain, that's a big kind of area. But all these different body maps have ties into other aspects of kind of the way our brain works. So they find a lot of connection between these body maps and perception, quality of thought, different cognitive functions and all that kind of stuff. So stress, like you were talking about, if that's a big factor in your life, it can affect quality of movement, but poor quality of movement and kind of the way you perceive yourself. So what I mean by quality movement, I'll kind of give you guys a big, I guess, kind of one of the bigger examples that I see. So for instance, people with a lot of low back pain, pelvic pain, hip pain, knee pain, the big issue that they have is with something called the hip hinge. So the hip hinge, if I demonstrate it, it's that common bending forward to pick something off the floor. And when you do a hip hinge, what you should be able to do is, as you bend forward, you should be able to dissociate or separate within your body the difference between your lumbar spine and your pelvis. So a lot of people with issues from the chest down have a hard time distinguishing the two, so they kind of work as one unit, basically. So for instance, somebody with low back pain, chronic low back pain in nature, when they bend forward, instead of maintaining that natural, neutral lumbar spine curvature that you should have, you'll see kind of a flexion in it. When you flex the lumbar spine with the pelvis, it puts a lot of shear force onto the discs and joints and all that kind of stuff. So the lumbar spine should be strong and stable. The thoracic spine is where you should have a lot of good mobility and all that. If you start to flex, or so you lose that natural curvature of the lumbar spine like that, it puts a lot of shear force onto the discs, meaning a lot of kind of horizontal force onto it. And it puts a lot of stress on the facet joints that we have in the spine and a bunch of different things. So if you just do that, once a day or something, if you're just doing that posture, it's not bad. But if you load that position, meaning you go to pick up your kid like this or whatever it may be, or you're doing a deadlift, for instance, if you're working out like this, and you have any curvature to that lumbar spine, adding load to that position creates more force than that area normally needs and demands for, basically. That's how you get disc herniations, that's how you get facet irritation, that's how you get nerve root irritation. There's a bunch of kind of different things that can also happen. That's when you also get a lot of compensation type of issues within the pelvis. You'll get a lot of muscle inhibition, meaning the glutes kind of start to shut off because they rely on your pelvis is used to relying more on your low back muscles, all that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of compensation type issues, which could lead to injury. So the hip hinge is kind of just one kind of basic movement pattern. There's a lot of different things. For instance, we look at a lot of like the deep squat movement pattern, a lunge movement pattern, overhead reach for someone maybe with neck or shoulder type issues. But having good quality of those movements and good efficiency in those movements is what kind of sets you up to be, as injury-free as you can, basically, if you're going, especially if someone that's working out or physically active or whatever it may be. So even with someone that's not necessarily lifting weights or running or whatever it may be, like I said, you go through different movement patterns like that all the time. So if you're constantly having a poor hip hinge or a poor squat pattern where your knees cave in and your feet pronate or whatever it may be, over time, if that's how you always are functioning, that can easily lead to irritations of joints, discs, neurological changes. Your brain, in that kind of area like I was talking about, tends to get what they call smudged. So that pattern, if it's poor and dysfunctional in a certain movement, basically that's kind of what the brain thinks that pattern should be like, so it smudges that pattern. So a lot of the treatment that I see with someone that I'll do in my office with a poor movement pattern like that is just kind of this analogy that famous kettlebell instructor used. It's called greasing the groove, meaning if you could continue to teach a proper movement pattern over and over again, you'll actually physically see a change to the brain in that nucleus where that connection is a lot clearer and a lot sharper, basically. And then that's when you know that the pain is kind of subsiding. If it's someone in pain, or if you're more trying to prevent it, at least you have that proper kind of connection. So when you're taught, like everyone says, lift with the legs and all that stuff, you'll still see real poor movement patterns. When someone says lift with the legs, this still isn't a good movement pattern because that's putting stress more through the quads and the knees and all that kind of stuff. So the hip hinge is actually a good movement pattern to lift something on the floor because it loads the whole posterior chain, meaning it's loading the gastrocs, the hamstrings, the glutes, the hip capsules, and into the erector spine and the low back and all that kind of stuff. So this is an efficient movement pattern if you're picking up something that's a relatively all-right load. If you start to lose that pattern, you're doing that all day, then like I said, you're going to put a lot of force into those joints, and it does create a lot of inflammation. Even though someone may have a dysfunctional movement pattern, if you can start to load that movement pattern, even with a little bit of weight, your body's naturally going to figure out how to move with that weight. Okay, so there's other things you can do. It's called like RNT, where you use bands for like a deadlift, for instance. So if you find someone that really kind of shifts anteriorly, you basically use a band to pull them anteriorly, which makes their body correct, because now they have something to feel to pull into, and they're going to shift back onto their heels or whatever it may be. So RDL is great for loading that movement pattern and kind of having the body figure out. That relates to something called sensitization. So what happens with chronic injuries is you get a peripheral sensitization, meaning there's pain going on in the body. Pain is just the brain's way of saying, like, give me change, basically. So over time, those peripheral nerves are always firing because there's some sort of dysfunction in the body, whether it's inflammation, muscle imbalance, whatever it may be. If that goes for a long period of time, you get a wind-up effect, and then you all of a sudden get central sensitization, meaning there's an actual structural change to the central nervous system, meaning the spinal cord of the brain. Once you get central sensitization, you can't do anything about that. It's just like if you sever your spinal cord, you can't do anything about that. You can reprogram the pathway that does that same movement so that now it starts taking a different pathway so that it ignores that old pathway that's sensitized, basically. And that's when chronic pain kind of goes away. So yes, like you're saying, you can change the efficiency of certain movement patterns or work in different planes, whatever it may be. You're just creating new pathways, basically.
Hilary Back is a general neuropathic doctor. She's going to be talking about the problem with leaky gut, how your body will transform once you heal your leaky gut, and how to find out what foods you should be eating and avoiding.
So naturopathic doctors are basically general practitioners, and we see almost everything. There are some that specialize. I consider myself to be a general practitioner, and naturopathic medicine, it's kind of like, instead of going and you go to your doctor and they just give you an antibiotic because you have a cold, well, first of all, we're going to try to boost your immune system so you stop getting so many colds, and we're going to treat the cold using some natural antimicrobials. So that's really, you know, like, there's so many different options and opportunities around natural medicine, and all of us who are here today are interested in natural medicine in one form or another. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what it is, because I feel like even in 2016, so few people actually know about naturopathic medicine as an option. Leaky gut, I like to think of it as we have what are called tight junctions throughout our intestines. And when someone has leaky gut, these tight junctions become looser. And things that shouldn't get through do, and things that should actually, you know, be out and about can also get into your intestines. It can go either way. So you can have, it's just more permeability throughout your system. And what happens then when you get leaky gut is that you can get a large variety of symptoms. And the reason why there's so many symptoms is because whatever's getting out of what should be in your gut, your body's actually identifying as not me. Mm. This is not supposed to be here. If it were, it's supposed to be here. It's actually supposed to be in the intestine, but it's not supposed to be by your wrist or in your muscles or just in general as far as blood flow. So your body then starts attacking itself. So leaky gut is basically the basis, in my opinion, for all autoimmune disease. Mm. So because you start attacking yourself. Now it also can cause digestive disruption, you know, such as gas and bloating and all sorts of other things. There's a ton of things that leaky gut can cause. But I just want you to get that leaky gut, like how you diagnose leaky gut is, it's challenging because, I mean, but a lot of times it's there in so many people. So healing people's gut, especially from a naturopathic perspective, is really the center of healing, because we as naturopaths believe that everything centers in the gut. Because if you're not digesting well, nothing else is working properly. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So gut healing is a part of everything. Jackie's talk was great, I mean, because you really addressed a lot of really big issues. But I treat leaky gut often, is what I would tell you. Again, leaky gut manifests in a lot of ways. And autoimmune disorders are very common. So you definitely want to, I mean, like if someone's pretty sick, you want to treat their gut. I mean, like, so there are a lot of natural remedies to treat the gut. So glutamine can be very helpful in healing to both the small and the large intestine. Probiotics, which we usually, not only does your large intestine have to do with elimination and getting rid of toxins, but it's also 80% of your immune system, your GALT, gastro-associated lymphatic tissue, is in your large intestine. So it's very important that you actually keep your large intestine, colon, healthy. So what I would tell you is that there's, I mean, like, so from probiotics to glutamine, but there's, I mean, I have combination products that are all about gut healing, that have deglycerated licorice and aloe and marshmallow, and I mean, they go on and on and on. MSM, zinc carnosine can be very helpful for the gut. There's a lot of different options, and so oftentimes I use a combination product to help heal the gut. And so I'm healing the gut while I am then also trying to get rid of whatever's living inside someone that may not be helping them, and treating whatever the overall problem is. I mean, so there's so many different facets, and it depends on what's wrong. There is no question that they are proving that the connection between what you put in, how you digest, and how it affects your brain. Which is interesting, but I'm going to kind of go back again also to the cleansing. I do a lot of cleanses as well. Mine are a little bit different than Jackie's, but the same idea. I usually focus on detoxing the liver as well as the intestines. I actually often will send people to get colon cleanses while they are doing an internal cleanse on a hypoallergenic diet. And what I have been reported back by so many people, I've been doing this now, I'm in my 17th year of practice, and I can tell you that one of the most common things is how much people tell me how much better they feel in their head. Less anxiety, less depression, better moods overall. And it's because food absolutely affects how we feel. And it is part of that gut-brain axis because of the neurotransmitters, because of what's happening. I mean, and let's talk about just one specific neurotransmitter, which is serotonin. So a lot of people do know serotonin. Serotonin is kind of that happy neurotransmitter. Well, serotonin is made in your gut. So if your gut's not working and you're not making serotonin, right there, that can be part of why people are depressed. So there's unbelievable numbers of connections between the gut-brain axis, and I don't want to totally simplify it, right. But yes, I think there's more and more and more to learn, just like there is about everything. I mean, every time we uncover one thing, we find out there's so many more things around it that we don't know. I am not one who follows like one size fits all at all. I do a lot of food sensitivity testing. So I draw people's blood, and the most common one I use is an ELISA test, and it looks at your IgG and IgA, which are two different immune complexes that look at delayed food sensitivities. So many people don't even know that they're sensitive to different things. And so what this test comes back, and it gives you a list. I mean, the one I run is about 112 foods. And then you know, like, okay, let's try avoiding these foods and see how you feel. There are blood type diets. There are, you have paleo, you have this and you have that. If you know that something works for you or doesn't work for you, then that's a good place to start. But I love food sensitivity testing because then it's like, this is about you. It's not about me, and it's not about anyone else in the room. It's about what your body can manage. It's really simple. The one I do is actually, I think, one of the more cost-effective ones. So that's one of the reasons why I do it, because food sensitivity testing can be expensive. But I love it, and I find that people feel better. What we do is, so you take the foods, whatever foods are on your list, you remove them for 6 full weeks, and then you reintroduce them one at a time. And you actually get to see, does this food bother me? Doesn't it bother me? Some things may bother you more than others. Some things might not really bother you much at all, and you're like, okay, I can incorporate this into my diet. And other things you may never reintroduce again. Because wow, whenever I eat that, I feel terrible. And sometimes you take something out for a certain period, like a year, and then you try it again and you see how you do. Because sometimes once you've eliminated it and your gut's had a chance to heal, then you can reintroduce it and you can do better with it. So I'm not a one-size-fits-all diet person. I really try to match it to who you are. That's my best approach. And then if someone does not want to do food sensitivity testing, the other way that I like to do it is I put someone on what's called a hypoallergenic diet, and we remove the 10 biggest food allergens that are out there. They're not all of them though, because you can be allergic to carrots, and I'm not taking carrots out of your diet. You know what I'm saying? It's not specific. But I get rid of, corn and all gluten and dairy and sugar and peanuts and eggs. And most meats I take out of that one, which again, some people are just fine with those. But we take them out and then we reintroduce them and you see how you do.
Of course, and this is me, Sandro Torres, your health coach, talking about why it's important to make small changes, how to deal with the stress, life has seasons, setting up goals, and following the map towards your goals. So what I'm going to teach you in this moment is how you can improve your life. Um, Let me begin by telling you my mistakes. My life when I was actually in Mexico City, I'm from Mexico, I was very poor, super poor. I have nothing. But I was actually, that's the way I was living. I didn't know many things about life. My life, I was created in a bubble. Then I moved to the US, okay? When I moved to the US, I started making money, but I was poor still. Okay, so let me tell you a couple of things that I had. I was poor, I was gaining weight, my relationships were unsuccessful, I was ignorant. But that was by choice. I want you to think about something. I was there because I made those choices. I was lazy. So that's the first thing that you need to learn. The things that we're doing right now are by choice. Okay? So we're learning all this great information about posture, about colon, about the leaking gut and all that stuff. Okay? We're getting all the information, but it's worth it. At least you do something about it. Okay? So now I'm in a completely different position. By the way, I used to owe a lot of money. Why? No, it's not because I didn't make good money. I used to work for a very good restaurant. So I make good money. But the reason is that I wasted. I wasted in my car, I wasted in partying, I wasted in clothes, I wasted in traveling. And I'm not saying that those things are wrong. I think there's people that can afford that. I couldn't afford it. I thought I could afford it because I make money. But I found myself broke. Every season, I find myself that I don't have enough money and I have to ask for money to pay my rent so I can pay it back when the season started. When I started exercising, I wanted to become very muscular, and I started following the myth that I should be eating a lot of calories, that I should be eating that. Yes, and I was following the myth, and I started gaining weight. So there is a lot of things that I was doing completely wrong. Now I'm in the different position, and these concepts that I'm going to tell you right now, I apply it to my life, I pass it to my clients, it worked to my clients, it worked to other people, and I know they can work for you. Okay? So right now, I owe no money at all. I'm out of debt and I own an apartment. I have my business. We have a nonprofit. At the same time, I wrote a book. I'm working on another 2 books. And I'm completely getting out of that situation that I used to be. I'm in a completely opposite side where I used to be back in the past. But once again, why I'm in a different position? Because I made a choice. I made a conscious choice about what I want to do, and I'm paying the price on that. What put me where I used to be back in the past? The drinking, eating McDonald's, spending my money, not paying attention to my relationships. Those are bad habits that I used to follow. Bad habits that I used to follow, they always put me back in the same thing. I never went back and think about the things that I used to do. Now, this is what I want you to think about. Every single choice that you make right now is going to affect your future. So if you eat a candy bar, Jackie may find out in 3 days that you okay? If you eat a candy bar today, and you eat it tomorrow, and you eat it the next day, and you continue doing it, it's not going to affect your future. What's going to happen in the future? Now, if you substitute that candy bar for an apple, is that going to affect your future? What's going to happen in one year, in 5 years, etc.? As a matter of fact, I want you to do my huge favor. Everybody, close your eyes. Close them. I'm going to be talking to you for a bit, but I want you to have your eyes closed. I want you to think in 1 year. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. Where do you want to be in 1 year? Think about it. Think about your relationship, think about your trips, think about your health, think about your finances, think about your habits, think about the things that you want to do. Now what we're going to do, we're going to jump to 5 years. Think about where you want to be in 5 years. How old are you going to be? Now, for the last thing, it's going to be 20 years. 20 years, where you want to be? You're going to be finding yourself a home, bigger house, with family, healthy. What are your goals? Okay, go ahead, open your eyes. So now that you actually thought about, tell me the truth. Do you see yourself dead? No? Do you see yourself with cancer? Ill? Poor? Having a fight with your significant other? Getting divorced? Do you see yourself there? No, nobody, right? The problem is that we don't make those conclusions. We just live life as it goes. When you actually set up goals and think about it, say, okay, I want to be here in 5 years. How am I going to get there? If you don't see yourself with that, if you don't see yourself with cancer, okay, what can I do? What's under my control so I can avoid that? Okay, what are the things that actually does cause cancer that many people don't think they do? Even though if, let's say, it's a conspiracy or it's a lie, can you do something about it? Can you at least say, okay, I'm safe here, even though many people don't believe this, or this is true, whatever it is, the microwave, the processed food. Think about all those things that actually do contribute. Can I actually stay away from that? If you stay away from that, at least you know that you're staying away of all that things that may cause cancer and you're doing something to avoid that. Right? If you actually see yourself with your finances in a good position, can you invest your money? Can you do something about it? If you see yourself healthy, like a nice body, not being overweight, can you do something right now? Can you exercise? Can you eat healthy? So every single thing that you're doing every day is going to affect your future. So keep that in mind. Once you have a goal, you're going to start having little things that you're going to be doing every day so you can get there. If you trust somebody with $10, and that person goes and invests those $10 and then give you more money back, you can trust that person with $1 million. Okay? What that means? That means if you can start with the little things, you can begin with the bigger things. But if you can't do the small things, you're not going to be able to do the bigger things. So here's an example. If you can't switch the candy bar for the apple, you can't cook because you're not doing the smallest thing. The more difficult things, they're going to be more difficult. You need to begin with something. If you can walk for half an hour, you're not going to be able actually to run for 4 miles. If you don't have the discipline to have that, you're not going to be able to come to a structured program, exercise program. So when you begin with the smallest things, you can actually build to the biggest thing. So think about that. And that's mental. Because if you actually can do the smallest thing, you know you can do the other thing, and then you continue building and building and building. And that's how your brain actually works. Stress is good, depending on the stress that you actually bring into your life. So let's talk a little bit about my stress. Here's a great example. In the past, I didn't have the money to actually pay an expensive car. If I don't have the money to pay an expensive car, I'm going to be stressed to keep that car. Therefore, I'm going to be having 2 jobs to pay that car. That's a negative stress. Why stressing about something that is not going to really bring me value to my life? Now, I stress about my business. I stress about all my clients getting those results, being happy, coming over here and deliver what I promise. That's good stress. Why? Because it's bringing value to my life. So that's the difference between one and the other. Now, the question is, and please, and somebody already made this question, raise your hands if you don't have any problems. If you are human, then you're going to have problems. We all have problems. There is no person out there that doesn't have problems. As a matter of fact, I was walking by my house, and I was reading, and there is 20 people, not 20 people, I probably like 100 people. And I just want to ask him, please, do me a favor, please Don't raise your hand if you don't have a problem. Nobody raised your hand. Nobody raised their hands. And I was a little bit crazy because I was talking to the dead people. The dead people don't have problems. Okay, the cemetery is just by my house. Sometimes I go and read there. Dead people don't have problems. Okay, only people that are alive have problems. The more problems you have, the better it is, and they're good problems. You need to solve them. That's what keeps you going. You actually become stronger when you have those problems. It's okay to have them, but you have to deal with it. You have to know how to approach it. You have to create them. It's good to create problems. If you have a husband, a wife, you're going to have problems. That's normal. If you have kids, you're going to have problems. If you have business, you're going to have problems. If you have a job, you're going to have problems. Okay? If you exercise, you're going to have problems. You're always going to have problems. The issue is, how are you going to deal with those problems? Somewhere in the Bible, I usually don't keep track where I read it, but there is seven skinny cows and 7 fat cows. Have you heard about that? 7 head grains and 7 good head grains and 7 they're dead. What happened? So the Pharaoh actually was dreaming, and he dreamed that he saw seven fat cows, and then the 7 skinny cows came and eat the actually fat cows. The 7 good head grains came in, they were good, and the bad ones came and killed them. And he wanted to know what's going on, and nobody can interpret those dreams until somebody called Joseph. Joseph was in jail. They bring him back to the Pharaoh, and he said, I hear that you actually know how to interpret dreams. Can you tell me what's going on? So the Pharaoh said, Joseph said, so this is what's going on. There's gonna be a lot of food, a lot of prosperity, a lot of things in Egypt. It's gonna be great for 7 years. But it's gonna be 7 years, there's gonna be scarcity. There's not gonna be nothing. So what you need to do right now is get everything, all the resources together. Save them for those 7 bad years. And then the Pharaoh tells Joseph to take care of that. My point out of that is, life is just like that. Life is just like the seasons. The same thing. You're going to have winters, you're going to have summers. So there's going to be great days that you're going to have a lot of things, and life is going to be amazing. And everywhere. If you separate your life in 5, what I do, I separate my life in 5 categories. I separated my spiritual growth, separated my family, I separated my health, and my profession, and my finances. And when I separate it, I see where I do great and when things are going great. And another thing is just winter for me. Those 7 bad cows, right there, the skinny cows, it's very hard for me. But I know that it's going to pass. That I have to have resources to pass those 7 years, which is not 7 years. It could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be weeks. It could be years, actually. But then it gets better. So what you need to know is that road ahead. You know you're going to have that. You need to be prepared for it, so you don't give up. You continue moving forward. The last thing that I want to tell you is about setting up your goals and make sure you follow the map. Okay? If you don't have a goal, you're going to get lost. If you don't follow the map, you're going to get lost. So I'm going to tell you a story in Mexico City. In Mexico City, I used to be a public driver. You drive a van and you take people into your route. And I had a route. Actually, Mexico City is a huge city, and people can get lost very easily. And I never got out of my route. So 2 guys pull me over and they say, you know what, we have this huge mirror. We want to hire somebody to take it to that side of Mexico City. So I don't want to give you details because I probably you don't know where it is, but I'll give you details. There is Sor Juanes de Avenue. There is you get to the head of Juarez. You pass that huge avenue. That's one area of Mexico City. When you pass that huge avenue, then you get to another area of Mexico City. But I never got out of my route. And they say you're gonna be fine. All you have to do is drive to the avenue. And what you're gonna do once you get to the avenue, just get into where you're gonna drop us off. You're gonna get into the bridge over, just drive back, and you're going to be back to your route. And I say, okay. So they get out, they get on in my van, and I took him, and they paid me good money, by the way. I was so happy because I make like, I made what I made in 2 days in Mexico. I made it like in 1 hour. I was very excited, very, very excited about that moment. Then they say, okay, so what you're gonna do is just go straight. You go into the bridge, you go around, and then you go back, and you're gonna go back to your route. So I was very happy to get into the car and start driving, and to the van, and then I get into the bridge. I don't know what happened, but I thought I took the wrong exit. I was lost for 6 hours in the city. I was desperate. I get out of the route, which my van could be towed by transit. What else happened? I spent the money on gas, and I didn't know what to do. So finally I stopped a taxi, and I told him, you know what, I'm completely lost. I'm looking for this avenue. Please help me. And he said, you know what, I'm going that way. Why don't you follow me? When I give you the signal, then you can get out into that exit, and that's exactly where you want to go. So start following him, and then he gave me the signal. I get out the exit. Bingo! I was so excited to find the avenue. I was so happy. Now think about it, because I can go back. I can go back and I can feel my frustration. I was frustrated for 6 hours. Can you imagine people being frustrated for 10 years, for 5 years, for 20 years, for 25 years, because they can't find their goal? Because they're just spinning, they're just going, they're lost in life. They don't know where they're going, they don't have something set up. So what I'm telling you with this, if you don't have that goal set up, and you don't know where you're going, and you don't follow the map, you're going to get lost. So, you got everything? First of all, set up your goals. Follow the map. There's going to be difficulties, okay? Do the right thing every day, that the most difficult things are going to get easier. And lastly, we have Megan King, an acupuncturist. She's talking about how acupuncture can help you with stress.
How many of you have lost sleep or have had digestive issues or back pain or something due to stress? Okay, so the hands are going up. Stress can come in all kinds of different forms and sizes, and it's comes from, it can be just from your environment, the air you breathe, bless you, the food you eat, relationships, home, work. I mean, it can be, we all know it can come from anywhere. And it truly can affect your mind, body, and spirit. So I really believe it is a precursor to a lot of illnesses and imbalances. And this is a pretty general topic. I mean, acupuncture can treat all kinds of different things, which I guess I can explain in a little bit as well. But I do feel like most patients who come in to me, even if they're coming in with a digestive issue, I still end up treating their spirit and treating a type of stress that they're dealing with. Putting their body back into balance to be able to deal with the stress, and then to also kind of lift that stress off the body a little bit, to let go, to relax. So acupuncture can boost the immune system. Just putting whatever, so with an autoimmune disease, something in the body, well, there's usually multiple things. It's usually, there's a big picture to it, a lot of little pieces and a big puzzle. Acupuncture will put things back into balance. So if you have weak kidney qi, this goes into like the whole Chinese therapy, but if you have weak kidney qi and weak lung qi, that can lead to a weak immune system. So boosting that, those two organs and channels would raise your immunity. Digestive issues, precursor to autoimmune diseases, acupuncture can treat digestive issues, center. I treat a lot of center, I like to call it, or the middle jiao. I treat a lot of different things through the middle jiao. So I would probably work on the middle jaw a lot for an autoimmune disease, but it depends on what it is and what the symptoms are. So the symptoms really can lead me towards which organ or channel I'm going to work on.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed the content offered here, then I know you will enjoy these books. These are great tools to lead you to successful weight loss, better health, and greater happiness.